You can ride for 40 years, and winter will still find a new way to test you. The cold doesn't care how experienced you are. The pavement hardens, the rubber stiffens, and even simple habits become dangerous when the temperature drops. Most winter crashes don't come from bad riding. They come from good riders assuming the road will behave the same as it does in summer. It won't. So in this breakdown, we're going straight into the 12 things you should never do on a motorcycle in winter. These aren't theories. They're the real-world mistakes that catch riders off guard every single year. And number 1 is the one nearly every veteran rider gets wrong. So stick with this all the way through. Number 12, run. Summer compounds in winter cold. Winter riding changes the road beneath you long before it changes the sky above you. The pavement may look familiar, but the temperature turns it into something entirely different. Cold asphalt is harder, slicker, and far less forgiving. The tire rubber that works well in warm weather loses its grip as the temperature drops, especially when the compound is designed for summer performance. What felt firm and planted in July becomes stiff and untrustworthy in January. A rider may not notice it at first, but the bike does. Every turn, every short stop, and every small correction depends on the tire's ability to stay flexible and hold the ground. Summer compounds are built for heat. They need warmth to soften and bite into the pavement. In winter, that heat never arrives. The rubber stays rigid, reducing the tire's contact with the road. A slight lean angle becomes a larger risk. A casual throttle roll turns into a wheel spin. Even the most experienced rider can misjudge the difference between a summer-ready tire and a winter-ready compound. Cold, dry pavement already offers less traction. And once you add scattered sand, leftover salt, or a thin wash of meltwater, the margin for error disappears quickly. Many riders assume they can compensate by taking it easy, but winter riding demands more than caution. It demands the right tools. No amount of smooth control makes up for tire rubber that cannot adapt to the temperature. Without proper grip, the bike feels unsettled and vague. Braking distances increase, steering requires more care, and mid-corner corrections become unpredictable. The machine may feel heavier, slower to respond, or unsure beneath you, and that feeling is the tire compound telling you it has reached its limit. Respecting winter conditions begins with understanding what your tires can and cannot do. Summer compounds simply are not built for the cold, and relying on them invites unnecessary risk. Cold mistakes pile up fast, and the danger deepens with the habit riders overlook most as winter truly begins. Number 11. Ride like black ice has boundaries. Winter roads can lure even experienced riders into a false sense of control. The pavement may look dry, the air may feel stable, and the bike may seem ready for the miles ahead. Yet, black ice forms in places that give no warning. It gathers quietly in the shadows of overpasses, sits beneath tree lines, and hides on the cold side of long, sweeping curves. Unlike snow or frost, it does not announce itself. It waits for a tire to touch it, and by the time a rider notices the change in traction, the mistake has already begun. Black ice stretches across the road without shape or pattern. It does not respect lanes, road markings, or the habits of riders who believe they know their local routes better than the weather. Even the most seasoned rider can roll into a familiar corner, only to find the pavement turned slick beneath them. At winter temperatures, the difference between solid grip and a complete loss of control can be the width of a tire. Once the bike starts to drift, recovery becomes a matter of luck rather than skill. The challenge with black ice is not just its invisibility, but its unpredictability. It forms at dawn, melts at noon, and returns by late afternoon. Bridges freeze first and stay frozen longest. Country roads, shaded by pines or oak canopies, hold cold air long after the sun rises. Intersections may gather thin sheets of ice from thawing snowbanks. A rider cannot assume that yesterday's safe stretch of asphalt will behave the same today. Riding through winter demands a different mindset. It requires leaving extra space, rolling on the throttle with patience, and giving every corner the respect it deserves. Black ice does not care about experience or confidence. It appears without pattern and disappears without trace, and treating it as predictable invites trouble. If hidden ice creates sudden threats, The issue waiting ahead strikes even before the wheels start turning. If you are getting value from this breakdown, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Share your thoughts in the comments and help other riders see the dangers winter brings before they face them on the road. Number 10. Trust a weak battery in freezing weather. Cold weather exposes weaknesses that stay hidden during warmer months, and the first system to show strain is often the battery. Riders who have spent years on the road understand how temperature affects starting ability, but winter has a way of testing even the most well-maintained machine. A battery that behaves normally in mild conditions can struggle when the temperature drops. Voltage falls faster in the cold, and the demands placed on the starter climb higher. What starts as a slow crank can turn into a complete failure without much warning, especially when the bike has been sitting for several days. Winter also changes how a motorcycle responds to the first turn of the ignition. The oil inside the engine thickens, increasing resistance on every moving part. The starter must work harder to overcome that drag, and a weak battery often does not have the reserve to handle the extra load. Riders accustomed to long-distance touring know that a cold engine already asks for patience. When paired with a tired battery, it becomes a risky combination. A motorcycle that fails to start in warm weather is an inconvenience. In the cold, it can leave a rider stranded miles from home or shelter. Modern accessories add to the strain. Heated grips, heated seats, auxiliary lights, and navigation systems draw power, whether the battery is in peak condition or not. In winter, every added load reduces the margin for error. Even a brief ride across town can drain a weak unit enough to make the next start more difficult. For riders who do their own maintenance, winter is the season to test, charge, or replace the battery before the coldest stretch begins. Ignoring early signs of weakness invites trouble. A slow crank, dim headlights at idle, or a battery that requires frequent charging are warnings worth taking seriously. Winter weakness does not stop at the battery. The following mistake happens the moment the engine roars to life. While we move through the list, your gears and accessories are waiting below in description. Number 9. Fire up and go without letting the bike settle. Cold weather changes the rhythm of every machine, and a motorcycle feels that difference more than most. When temperatures drop, the first moments after ignition become the most important part of the ride. Many riders develop a habit of starting the engine and rolling out immediately, especially if they are running late or trying to avoid the sting of winter air. Yet, winter is the season when patience matters most. A cold engine carries thicker oil, tighter clearances, and moving parts that need a moment to adjust. Forcing the motorcycle into motion before everything settles places stress on components that are already working against the temperature. Winter oil behaves differently from oil warmed by summer pavement. It moves slowly, clings heavily, and takes time to circulate through the passages that protect the engine. Until it reaches operating temperature, the crankshaft, bearings, and cam surfaces work harder than they should. Riders who enjoy long touring days understand how quickly small mechanical issues can grow when the engine is pushed before it is ready. Allowing a brief moment of idle time is not wasted time, it is an investment in longevity. Cold metal expands as it warms, and letting the engine breathe for a short period ensures that expansion happens smoothly. The fuel system feels winter pressure as well. Fuel vaporizes less efficiently in low temperatures, making the first minute of operation especially important. Rolling off too early can lead to hesitation, stumbling, or uneven throttle response. These issues may seem minor, but on a slick winter road, even a small delay in power delivery can unsettle the motorcycle at the wrong moment. Winter riding demands respect for the conditions and understanding of how machines behave when the cold sets in. Giving the engine a moment to settle is a simple step that protects reliability and rider confidence. Once that first rush of cold hits the machine, the real trouble shows itself in a place most riders barely check. Number 8. Ignore tire pressure swings. Winter riding changes the behavior of a motorcycle in ways that are easy to underestimate. One of the most overlooked factors is tire pressure, and the cold season punishes any rider who assumes last week's pressure is good enough for today's ride. Air contracts when temperatures fall, and the drop can be significant. A tire that held steady in warm weather can lose several pounds of pressure overnight once winter settles in. Riders who depend on stability, smooth handling, and predictable steering feel the difference immediately, even if they do not recognize the source. Underinflation creates a vague and unsettled sensation at the handlebars. The motorcycle may wander slightly, lean differently, or resist turn-in during cornering. On dry, summer roads, a slight variation in pressure might go unnoticed. Winter pavement, however, exposes every flaw. Cold asphalt offers less grip, and a soft tire multiplies that risk. Braking distances increase, traction becomes inconsistent, and cornering confidence drops sharply. Experienced riders understand that the motorcycle communicates through the tires, and ignoring those warnings in winter can lead to dangerous moments. Overinflation is not harmless either. When the weather fluctuates, riders who add too much air without careful measurement may end up with tires that are too firm. A hard tire reduces contact with the road, making the motorcycle feel skittish. It loses the ability to absorb small bumps. And on winter pavement, coated with salt or sand, that reduced contact patch becomes a liability. Balance, braking, and traction all suffer when a tire cannot flex properly. Checking tire pressure becomes a daily habit during winter months. A reliable gauge, steady routine, and understanding of the recommended range give a rider the best chance at staying safe on unpredictable roads. Tires perform only as well as the pressure inside them allows. Respecting that reality preserves control and stability during the coldest rides. Pressure swings tell part of the story, yet the next danger targets the rider directly, long before the ride begins. Number 7. Dress like it's fall and count on layering to save you. Winter riding tests a rider's discipline long before the motorcycle touches the pavement. The cold air cuts deeper, the wind steals heat faster, and the hours of daylight shrink until every mile must be measured with care. Many riders assume that layering up with casual clothing is enough to keep the cold away, especially if they are only planning a short ride. The truth is that winter wind defeats basic layers almost instantly. What feels warm in the driveway becomes painfully cold within the first few miles, and once the body loses heat, judgment, and reaction time begin to fade. A rider facing winter conditions needs more than a stack of shirts and a jacket meant for mild weather. Proper winter gear is designed to keep wind from penetrating through to the skin. It protects the hands, chest, and core in a way that ordinary clothing never can. Without it, the cold tightens muscles, stiffens fingers, and reduces the ability to make quick decisions. Even the strongest rider cannot outthink numb hands or a chilled spine. Winter roads lined with frost, salt, or thin patches of ice demand steady control, and control disappears when comfort disappears. Another problem with inadequate gear is moisture. The body produces condensation under layers, and when that moisture cools, the rider becomes even colder. Once chilled, warming up on the move becomes nearly impossible. The wind turns every small gap in the clothing into a funnel of freezing air. The ride becomes a struggle rather than an experience, and the distraction created by discomfort becomes one more hazard for winter riding. Choosing proper winter gear is not about style. It is about safety, endurance, and respect for the road. If clothing fails to keep pace with freezing wind, the hazard waiting ahead clouds vision when clarity matters most. Number 6. Ride with fog, frost, or glare on the visor. Winter riding demands more than mechanical awareness. It demands clear vision every mile. Fog, frost, and glare become some of the most dangerous obstacles a rider can face when the temperature drops. A visor that looked clean in the garage can cloud over within seconds once cold air meets warm breath. That thin layer of fog may seem harmless at first, but it blurs distance, hides road hazards, and forces the eyes to work harder. When visibility shrinks, every decision takes longer, And winter roads do not offer the luxury of delay. Frost creates an even more unforgiving challenge. Moisture settles on the visor during a cold start, and as the motorcycle begins to move, the wind freezes it into a thin sheet of ice. A rider may try to scrape it away with a glove, but that only smears the frost and reduces clarity even further. Once frost builds, it becomes nearly impossible to remove without stopping. On winter pavement, with fewer safe pull-off areas, that delay can introduce new risks. Then comes the glare. Low winter sun sits at an angle that strikes a visor directly. The combination of bright sunlight and a slightly fogged or frosted surface creates a blinding whitewash. A rider may momentarily lose sight of the lane, oncoming traffic, or the road edge. Even a brief loss of vision invites danger when the pavement may be coated with salt, sand, or hidden ice. Glare grows worse when the visor is scratched, and cold weather makes older visors more brittle and prone to micro cracks. A clear visor is not a small detail. It is a core part of winter safety. Anti-fog treatments, pin-lock systems, and clean surfaces protect the rider far more than instinct alone. Good visibility turns a winter ride from a gamble into a controlled experience. A blurred visor is risky, but the threat tied to melting ice turns the road itself into a trap. Number 5. Assume meltwater will stay. Water all day, winter roads change hour by hour, and the most dangerous mistakes come from assuming they will behave the same from morning to evening. Meltwater is one of those winter traps that catches even experienced riders off guard. When the sun rises and temperatures lift slightly, snow and ice begin to soften. Water runs across the pavement, settles into cracks, and flows toward low spots. In the early afternoon, this meltwater often looks harmless. It reflects the light and appears no different from a typical wet patch on a cool day. Many riders pass through it without giving it a second thought. As the day cools, meltwater that seemed harmless at noon can freeze into a thin sheet of ice by late afternoon. Winter shadows fall across tree-lined back roads, rural highways, and open stretches, chilling pavement faster than most riders expect. Even a light breeze speeds the freezing process. The water does not need to be deep. A thin glaze is enough to turn steady traction into an instant slide. Meltwater also mixes with salt, dirt, and sand, creating an even slicker surface. When this mixture refreezes, it becomes unpredictable. A familiar turn may suddenly feel loose, tires drifting without warning. At highway speeds, it hides in lane centers, and in towns, it collects near curbs or intersections where control matters most. When winter water hardens back into danger, the challenge that follows comes from the traffic surrounding the rider. Number 4. Sit behind cars, throwing salt, slush, and road spray. Winter traffic creates its own set of hazards, and one of the most overlooked dangers is following too closely behind vehicles that throw salt, slush, and dirty road spray into the air. Riders who spend most of their time on dry pavement often underestimate how quickly visibility can disappear when a car or truck kicks up a mix of brine, melted snow, grit, and loose ice. What begins as a light mist becomes a heavy cloud that blinds the visor, coats the windshield of your helmet, and forces you to react without a clear view of the road ahead. Even a short burst of spray can hide potholes, debris, or a sudden change in traffic speed. The mix thrown from traffic is unpredictable. Salt stings the eyes, slush freezes on contact and blinds the visor, and sand or small stones create scratches that reflect winter sunlight. Wiping with a glove only smears grime, turning a moment of blindness into real danger on low-traction pavement. Following too closely makes this worse. When a vehicle ahead hits ruts, slick patches, or brakes suddenly, the rider behind has less time and fewer options. Winter roads hide icy sections in wheel tracks, forcing the rider to follow unsafe lines. With longer braking distances, one sudden stop can erase any chance of recovery. Giving space is not just a courtesy. It gives the rider room to choose a cleaner line, avoid flying debris, and maintain steady visibility. Spray and slush take away your sight, yet the force waiting ahead tries to take away your control entirely. If you want more guides built for riders who take safety and experience seriously, make sure you subscribe. Every week we bring practical, no-nonsense insights that help you stay sharp, stay prepared, and stay confident on every mile ahead. Number 3. Underestimate winter wind at highway speed. Winter wind carries a different kind of force, one that riders often fail to appreciate until they feel it cutting through every layer of gear. At highway speed, cold wind does more than chill the skin. It drains strength, slows reaction time, and steals focus piece by piece. What feels like a steady breeze in the driveway becomes a punishing current once the motorcycle reaches open pavement. That wind pushes against the chest, pulls at the shoulders, and tightens every muscle a rider relies on for balance and control. Over a long stretch of road, the cold pressure works like a slow grind, wearing a rider down without them realizing it. Crosswinds add heavy danger in winter, striking from the side with enough force to push a motorcycle off its intended line. Cold slows the body's reactions, stiffens joints, and reduces fine control. So, a sudden gust at 70 miles per hour can move the motorcycle across the lane before the rider processes the impact. Bridges and overpasses amplify these blasts. Wind chill makes it worse. At highway speed, temperatures slightly above freezing feel brutal, numbing fingers, then wrists, then grip strength. As control fades and winter pavement already offers limited traction, numb hands turn wind into a silent and serious threat. Winter wind is not just air moving across the highway. It is a force that tests endurance, balance, and clarity. Respecting that force means recognizing that every mile at speed carries a different cost in the cold. Wind may push a rider to the edge, but the next mistake often happens before the tires have taken their first warm turn. Number 2. Push a cold bike on cold pavement with cold tires. Cold weather riding demands respect for physics, patience, and the limits of rubber. Nothing feels more ordinary than rolling a motorcycle out of the garage or pushing it across the driveway before firing it up. Yet in winter, that simple act becomes far more dangerous than most riders realize. Cold pavement turns slick long before it shows any visible frost. Cold tires lose flexibility the moment the temperature drops, turning the rubber into something closer to plastic than the warm, grippy compound you trust in summer. And when both surfaces are cold at the same time, the margin for error shrinks to almost nothing. A cold motorcycle is heavier than it feels on a warm day. Metals contract, fluids thicken. Even the controls feel stiff. When a rider leans or pivots the motorcycle by hand, the weight shifts differently. Add cold boots stepping onto pavement with limited traction, and the risk of a slow, unexpected slide increases. Many winter drops happen before the engine even starts. A boot slips, a tire rolls across an icy spot, or the motorcycle leans half a degree too far and gravity does the rest. Cold tires offer almost no grip because pushing does not warm them. Winter pavement hides micro ice, salt dust, and refrozen meltwater that mimic dry ground. Even a slope or gentle turn can make a motorcycle slide before the rider reacts. Once a winter slip starts, recovery is difficult. The rider cannot rely on warm traction, quick reflexes, or steady footing. The safest approach is to move slowly, test the surface, and respect how quickly cold materials react to each other. A bit of care in these first moments prevents the kind of spill that ends a ride before it even begins. If cold rubber makes even a driveway unpredictable, the final winter risk strikes hardest when the traffic closes in around you. Number 1. Ride winter traffic without an escape plan. Winter traffic demands sharper awareness, slower reactions, and a mindset built around preparation rather than instinct. Riding through cold weather traffic without an escape plan is one of the most dangerous decisions a rider can make. Winter roads narrow as snow piles along the edges. Lanes shrink. Shoulders disappear. Cars drift unpredictably as drivers fight low traction, foggy windows, and limited visibility. In these conditions, a rider is already starting from a disadvantage. The margin for error is thinner, and relying on quick reflexes alone is not enough. An escape plan is not a luxury, it is a lifeline. Every time a rider approaches a line of cars, moves through an intersection, or rolls into a merge zone, there should be a clear exit in mind. Winter traffic hides hazards that rarely show themselves in warmer months. A vehicle ahead may brake suddenly because of a patch of refrozen meltwater. A driver beside the motorcycle may drift across the lane while wiping frost from the windshield. A truck may kick up a burst of slush that blinds the visor for a full second. When these moments happen, a rider without an escape option is left reacting to danger instead of avoiding it. Scanning becomes crucial in winter traffic. A rider must watch for gaps, open shoulders, and any strip of clean pavement that can serve as a safe line. Every warning ties together here, reminding riders why winter requires respect, patience, and a plan for every mile. Winter has a way of reminding us that experience never makes you invincible, it only makes you smarter about the risks. These 12 mistakes take riders down every year, and avoiding them is what keeps you in control when the temperature turns against you. I'd love to hear your wisdom too. Which winter mistake have you seen riders make the most? Yan, or which one got you once? Share it in the comments so other riders can learn the easy way. And if this helped you ride safer, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and join us for more straight-talking biker breakdowns.